Hey guys, John here. Now today I'm here to talk about the much rumored PlayStation 4K. Even though Sony hasn't officially announced the next PlayStation, PlayStation 4.5, or the PlayStation 4K, whatever you want to call it, many sources are pointing towards an announcement happening in October. Now keep in mind that the PlayStation 4 was released on November 2013. That means the PlayStation 4 isn't even 3 years old yet. So if Sony releases an upgraded PlayStation 4, they need to be really careful, because if they don't do it right, they could potentially upset a lot of people who bought a PlayStation 4 already. It just, if you bought a piece of hardware and you're like, this is going to play my games on it for X amount of time, normally about 5 years, and suddenly it can't play games up to spec, I would be mad. So here's my idea of how they can go about basically a completely revamped PlayStation 4 without burning people. So let's say the PlayStation 4K is announced in October of 2016. That's not bad, necessarily. If they release the PlayStation 4K in November of 2017, that gives about a year span. That makes it so they're only cutting the PlayStation 4's lifespan short by about a year. And if there's still that leeway where you can play, the newest games on the original PlayStation 4, and there's that kind of transition period, it may not be so bad. People may not get as upset about that. Sony, you would also need to push the newest PlayStation with the PSVR, the PlayStation Virtual Reality headsets. So it gives people reason to upgrade to the new PlayStation. If you go like your PlayStation VR, the one that you've just spent $500+ on, still works with the next PlayStation, but better, that gives a legitimate reason for the hardware upgrade. Now I'm about to drop a reality check. A lot of people have been talking about how the next PlayStation would do native 4K gaming. I'm here to tell you right now, that's not happening. Give it a year, give it 2 years, give it whatever, but there is barely a GPU out there right now that you can drop into a PC that does 4K easily. So, and those GPUs I'm talking about cost upwards of $1,000. Sony, you better not charge more than $500 for the next PlayStation or the PlayStation 4K. That's not going to be acceptable. I'm going to tell you that right now. No one's going to buy it. And one more thing that won't be acceptable is that the console can't do native 1080p easily. I'm not talking about hitting 1080p, because the PlayStation 4 right now can hit 1080p. I'm talking about easily hitting 1080p. Like, you buy a game, you don't even have to ask, is it in 1080p? Because it is in 1080p. Now, what I don't want to see, and this goes for more than just Sony, this is for Microsoft, this is also for Nintendo, I don't want to see the continued decline of shrinking lifespans for consoles. Now, I think part of the reason that Sony and Microsoft are considering, shrinking the lifespan of the console is that, quite frankly, they see technologies like cell phones and tablets. They're the main ones. They're the main ones that you upgrade every 2 to 3 years, and they see that. And each one that that company sells, like everyone that Samsung sells or Apple sells, is profitable. And they're thinking, if we can get people to upgrade their consoles every 3 to 4 years, that's more money to Sony and Microsoft. There's a very delicate line that Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo has to balance if they go down the path of multiple consoles. Because what ends up happening is you fragment the markets. Especially if you make all of them cross-compatible. If they release, the PlayStation 4 is out, they release in PlayStation 4K next year, and then in 4 more years they release the PlayStation 5. And they can all play the same games, but you just make it more confusing for the consumer, especially if Sony continues to produce and sell all 3 of the consoles. Which one do you get? You get the weakest one because it's the cheapest, or you get the most powerful one because it might last you slightly longer. It's literally the same problem the PC market faces today. There is no difference. It's literally the same thing. Here's the thing. I custom built my mid-range PC in 2012, before the Xbox One and even PS4 was even announced. My PC still plays games in 1080p. Not always at the highest settings, but it still plays all the games just fine. You know, I may not even have to upgrade my PC before the next PlayStation comes out. That just kind of shows you how underpowered the consoles were when they first came out in the first place. Now, I know that my PC costs more than the Xbox One and PS4 together when they first came out. But if I bought a PS4 on day one, and then I bought a PlayStation 4K on day one if it was a serious upgrade from the original PlayStation 4, then my PC would actually be a lot more cost effective than continuously upgrading consoles. If I have to upgrade a console every 4 years, it may just be cheaper to build a decent PC and then just have that for a while. Yes, you don't always get the exclusives, but the PC market is getting a lot more love than it ever has before. I'm interested in seeing if the PlayStation 4K succeeds, because if it does, it could fundamentally change the way the game console market is. Not necessarily in a bad way, but not necessarily in a good way either. Only time will tell. Now, I have been interested in getting back into console gaming, because console gaming does have its benefits over PC. For one, the main thing is it's a lot simpler than PC gaming. But on the other hand, if they throw a whole wrench into it and have multiple consoles, that may just go right out the window. But only time will tell. So anyways, this is John of John Tech News. Have a good night.